another question. So then, as a feminine partner, how can we help to support the masculine? How can we help to hold space for the male perspective? Like, what can we do to support partners, friends, whatever, in their trauma processing? Because I know a lot of times, and I think we talked about this before, women, the feminine will say, you know, I want you to talk about your feelings, like Mike was talking about, and then they talk about it, and there's this like, oh, you're soft, you're weak. So what would you expect from us? Like, how can we support y'all in the process?
Um, I must say it's gonna be based on every individual is different because it's like your approach to how you go about it is different. You got to reach a person in a different way. Because for some
Amen.
people, you ain't finna get them right away, and for some people, they finna be too
Yeah.
much, and you gonna basically feel that type of way. So it all depends on if you're genuinely trying to open up that door. Be prepared. Just be prepared to basically accept whatever comes that way because it could be a lot of things. Like,
Yeah.
it's very serious. Like when we're talking about navigating through trauma, we're talking about like real world trauma that men literally would rather go their whole lives never talking about, like
Yeah.
behavior patterns, child abuse, molestation, rape, all of that. You don't talk about that, period. And it affects you in your relationships with your
Yeah.
partner and your children. And where you're doing a bunch of different things because your behavior and all of that is basically stemming from you having to be closed mouthed about all of these things. So finding if you are in a relationship with somebody or you're a female wanting to get that from a male, it's gonna be not easy. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It's not gonna be easy because they gotta choose one. They gotta choose to unlearn everything they done been taught. Because even in our male circle, before we even came to this point right about now, back in the day, I used to be like, "Yo, man up, don't talk about it," and
Yeah.
that's all we reinforce to each
Yep.
other. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Don't be a B. Don't be a P. Don't talk
Mhm.
about it. And that's all we reinforce. So now it's like harder to basically get somebody to unlearn all of that
Yeah.
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally because it is difficult. It messes with your psyche. It messes with you emotionally. But it is something that needs to be done in order for you to be in a better, safe place. And I'm not saying that people ain't going people they're not going to do it, but it's not going to be an easy thing.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with somebody who is struggling with that, just continue to reassure them that you are here, and most importantly, judgment free.
Yeah.
Don't be that person that listens and then bring it up, throwing it in their face. What they
Yeah.
tell you,
Right.
let them bring it up to you. Don't bring it up to them again.
Mm.
Let them tell it. Let them feel like they need to bring it up to you again. Create a genuine safe space for your
Mm.
partner to talk to you. Because if they don't feel safe enough, you're just gonna be in a relationship where they provide, protect, and they're good to you. But that's all you're gonna get, and they're gonna have somebody else be that safe space for them.
Thank you. Gerard, did you have something, or King? Did y'all, either one of y'all had something to add?
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially the last point is in a relationship. I think is it's a little tricky for that sharing in that sense because especially because you don't want it to be used as a weaponry against you later, and
Right.
that's the
Right.
vulnerability of the expressing trauma because now you got a rehealing because now it's like, oh, that's that spot.
Yeah.
Now I know where your weak spot. So the learning as well. So I really think in relationship it should, like anything of trust, it takes time to build. So let the relationship build as itself. Then you can add. You don't want to put your problem already onto the problem of the building
Right.
of that relationship. So I don't think that's a place to bring it until it's built with time and with trust. And trust is only
Yeah.
built after showing behaviors of you you can trust with this, then I could it's a building factor over time. So I think that's something that has to be built through that time and trust in the relationship before that is you want to be pouring out all of this form of trauma to someone else, because as their partner now, doesn't mean that's going to be forever. So you want to also, you don't want to plan for that, but you also want to be acknowledged, like you have to be safe for where you are as well. Are you at a place that you can pass this to this person and give them this information and hear it again in a different manner, or add it, or as a weapon in different things? So that's why I say you have to guard yourself as well. You know, you don't want to harden your heart, but definitely guard it.
And that's one of the sad, and I have to say this, that's one of the sad things about it is that and when moving into relationships, it is very important that we are able to find someone that we can basically do that with before
That's it,
we even try to be in a
for
relationship with
real.
them, because it is not going to be fair for us to continue to make an investment financially, period, into somebody that's just going to basically be an empty vessel, or just a basically a money pit, so to speak. Because and then you're not only you're losing money, but then you're also getting emotionally drained and emotionally abused in a different aspect. And I'm not saying that, oh, and and I'll say one thing too, adding on to this, just because you are experiencing the ability to express yourself, and for the ladies out there, it does not mean that a man is no longer capable of protecting you, is no longer strong, is no longer a man in that sense. You got to understand it's a fine balance between the two. I can still express myself and still be capable of hitting somebody over the head with a baseball bat to protect you. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean just because I cry on your shoulder, I can't basically handle the rest of the woes of the world. No, I've been doing it without you, but you've earned that spot, that place in my life where I feel comfortable enough to do that with you. Now that's gonna make me fight for you even further and
Yeah.
more. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so it is not something to be used as a weapon. It is something to basically look at it as a honor,
Yes.
and an additional sense of pride that you have somebody who can literally express themselves to you. And and, and it's very important for men to pretty much find a safe space to talk to people about their trauma, because we're all like, while women bring children into the world, men play the role of destruction in children and in women's hearts and relationships. And it's very important for us to find an opportunity to get to a point where we can talk about our feelings to anybody, whoever, so we can stop that vicious cycle of breaking people down and creating different, because it's like, parents make parents make your kids into certain ways, but then it's like we've seen within the black community, we know that when there's crime out there, we all, for those of us that didn't fall into that, we're just like, yo, don't let it be another black guy. But
Mhm.
we understand that this is the product of not expressing yourself. This is a product of not talking about your trauma. This is a product of not basically trying to be healed emotionally. And then you come out into the world and everybody's expecting you to do this, especially with women. It's like it's a harder thing to do. And it's like you do it for the best way that you can, and then you got those egotistical, you got the abusers, you got the verbal, physical abusers, and it's all stemming from their own childhood. But
Mhm.
it's not giving them a pass on it. It's not. But you got to check yourself before you try to literally be in a relationship with the opposite sex that is pretty much 100% in tune to their emotions. If
Mm.
you can't even do that to your own self, don't try to fake it and maintain it with somebody else. It's only going to be self-destructive at when it's all said and done in the end.
Mhm.
True.
But again, to answer the question, it's just like time. It's just
Mm.
gonna take time, and the
Yeah,
genuine feeling of wanting to be with somebody and listen to them express themselves.
Go ahead,
yes,
Cody.
but you still have to be careful even when you unload your trauma off onto someone else.
Mhm.
First, you also have to take into account, can that person handle what you're about to tell them?
Mhm.
Because everybody can't handle what you're about to tell them because
True.
they still have trauma that they're dealing with.
True.
So you can start to pour out your trauma to someone, but it triggers the person that you're talking to
Yeah.
because they haven't healed from the trauma that they've gone through.
Yes. And that
So
is
that's
very
a whole
true.
nother aspect of it. And it does take time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And all of y'all really, really pointed out. I know a lot of times, like we've talked about before, that men will try to express themselves to a woman, and there's a negative reaction. And it really comes back to understanding that those negative reactions are not necessarily about you or your trauma, but it's about that person. Recognizing that that person is responding only from the level that they are capable of responding, just like Cody said. Every understanding that every behavior, every reaction is because there is a need. So just like Cody said, when you're triggering that person and they're having this negative response, it's not because you and your trauma is too much in the general scheme of life. It's just that that person isn't in a space. They don't have space to hold it, just like he said. And being able to say that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that you can't hold space for my stuff. But also at the same time, what are you doing to work on your stuff? Because if my stuff is triggering you, that means that there's some work still within you that needs to be done. So, yeah.
And that's why I think times like self-care is so important for men, in the sense of counseling, getting your own therapist, being in health, self-help groups, like-minded coaching, whatever the things that you are into, getting those type of groups out there to do those things. Like, so when you have those things of self-help and self-care, though, you have those outlets to treat self and get a better understanding of where you at as a man. So I think those things is big for us, the to get connected into those self-care,
Yeah.
self-help programs. And when you see that, just the benefit of that and just that time better in knowing yourself, what you're in tune with, what connects you to yourself and as a man. So connecting yourself in your community is big. So a lot of times just I said mentoring is amazing. So being able to go to I don't care, schools or churches, whatever you may go, or just out of your community, where you're about, doing those things, the things that you're passing on torches. I think one thing as Black men that we are able to do more of, and I see that it's a big need of, is that olive branch of being able to express about things we've been through, and things about life as well. And this is a slippery slope because women are, when you see a woman talk to a random child, you're like, oh, she's motherly. But a man, you're like, oh, you'll grab your child. Like, oh, like as a man, you can't be fatherly as a positive manner. So be able to find yourself in a public place and positive place to uh, pass those olive branches of life, and how we can nurture one another through self-care, through progression, and knowing what these feelings are, being in tune with them, and how we can progress by identifying.
Yeah.